right, folks. Well, a funny thing happened. I got rejected on a basic customer service position. It is what it is. They got back to me almost right away. They got back to me with their, we got your application type of thing. But then I got another email this morning. It's kind of discouraging, if I'm honest. I'm telling myself I must have been overqualified because that's the only reason I can think that they would reject my resume. It was a bit of a blow. It came with a sting, but I'm actually going to double down my efforts rather than just getting discouraged about it. Back to the drawing board and go back even more ham than before. So look out, world. Here I come. So here's what I'm doing right now. And I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to say to you, if it happens, don't worry about it. Just pick yourself up, keep going, keep your eyes on the prize. That's the thing. And you'll get rejected. It's good for somebody that maybe is afraid to talk to the opposite sex. You get rejected time and time again, over and over, and you just have to get up and move on. That's what I'm doing. So I decided to take a different approach. I'm going to come on the camera here just for a moment to explain this to you. I did a very honest accounting, an inventory, if you will, a personal inventory of what are my skills, what am I passionate about. My friend Andre, I would like to give him credit for the wonderful words that he shares often. But there's a concept in Japan called Ikigai, the philosophy of Ikigai, he was saying. And this is brilliant. There's the idea of finding this intersection between four things, which becomes your purpose. And purpose has been a word that's been circulating everywhere lately, which makes sense. And that's what I'm asking myself today. What is my self-assigned purpose? The grand purpose aside, what do I want my purpose to be? Because that's really what it comes down to. He says this, the Ikigai is this: what you love, number one; what you're good at, number two; what you can actually get paid for, number three; and then what does the world need right now? Let's go through those again because I think this is really important. So number one, what do you love to do? And it could be anything. It could be something that you might consider a pastime or a hobby. Why not? Maybe that's exactly what you need to be doing. So first is, what do I love to do? And for those of you out there that may not know what even you love to do, it might be a crazy idea for some. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I would say contemplating this at a deep spiritual level, just sit in quiet contemplation and just think about this, or rather than think, let the answers just come. Go with your intuition. Like, what is one thing you do that when you do it, the time just flies by and you're like, whoa, what happened? Like 4 hours just went by and I've just sat down. That's probably an indication of that might be something that you love to do. So that's number one. Number two, what are you good at? What do people come up to you on a regular basis and say, man, you're so good at that. I wish I was as good as that as you are. Or people patting you on the back like that. You did an amazing job at that. Perhaps if you're an artist, maybe people come up to you and say, I was so blown away by your art, or there's something about your art that really spoke to me deep down. That's a pretty good indicator that you're good at it. And the other way to tell is, do you feel satisfied after you do the work? Do you really feel proud of yourself in a healthy way? Do you look back at your accomplishment and revel in the progress, right? Of the challenge maybe at first, but then overcoming the challenge and seeing it to the end and being relentless and not giving up, right? Those are things that you're going to be naturally good at. And naturally is probably the right word to use here. It's something that you're innately just good at. Some people are good at music. It's not to say that other people couldn't learn music, but for some of us, we have an aptitude for certain things. Aptitude doesn't necessarily correlate with that you're good at it, because being good at something also implies that there's a certain level of time and experience that you have with that thing. But these are all connected, right? You don't have to have the talent or the aptitude to be good at something, but you don't necessarily have to be good at something to also have a certain talent or aptitude. I know lots of people that are good at things that they don't really like. So that's the other thing. That goes back to the what do you love, though. So those are the two first very important factors and things to ask yourself. Number 3 was, what can I get paid to do? There might be lots of things that you're good at and you like to do, but they don't pay very well. Is that really a good use of your time? For example, I love walking. I love being in nature. How do you be good at that? You meditate and you make the most of your experience in a mindful way. Can I make money from that? Probably not. Could I potentially take people on excursions and adventures in nature and make money? Maybe. So there's a certain level of, you need to be realistic with this. What can you actually get paid for? And what can you get paid for next week or tomorrow versus this is going to take a year or two to finally make some money, right? I'm an entrepreneur, and as I know all too well, startups take a long time. If you're going to start a business, don't expect to make any money on it for the first year. Sometimes 5 to 10 years before you're profitable. Very common. But these people, they understand the potential that their business has, and they have the drive and the determination to see it through no matter what. They don't just give up. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. And then number 4 was, what does the world actually need? This is not a, how can I be of service to the world? What can you do? What is your specific skill set? Because we're all unique in that way. We all bring something unique to the table. Some people say, I'm not really good at anything. Nonsense. Everybody's good at something. Everybody has a unique set of characteristics, of specializations, of talents, of gifts that come together in a way that are 100% unique to you. How can you use that to do something good in the world? And by good in the world, it could be helping somebody who's in need, or being an advocate for an issue that really needs some attention. It could be doing something for future generations, not even for yourself, but you're thinking about several generations in the future of ameliorating this world in a way that has a lasting impact. Ikigai is a wonderful way, and as a lot of Japanese philosophy is, of understanding our sense of purpose and finding purpose if we lack it. So all that to say that I took some time today and I really thought about, what are my passions? What do I love to do? What am I good at? For sure, and that I've confirmed and I've validated it, not just with myself. Other people have said, yeah, you're pretty good at that. And for things like voice acting, it took dozens, maybe even 100 people to say to me, you know what, you got a really nice voice. Have you ever considered doing XYZ? And the first couple of times, it's like, yeah, whatever, okay, sure. Because in my head, I don't hear it. I don't hear what other people hear. But it took repeated times of being told that in a genuine way, where it's just like, oh, they're not trying to be nice to me. They actually mean it. And it happened so many times that I was like, I have no choice but to believe it. And when I started to believe it with other people, I started to believe it in myself. And I took a great class called Embracing Your Authentic Voice by my friend Nick Gent, who has a sound healing channel and a site that's just amazing. It's called The Mind Orchestra. Check that out. Nick Gent, you are amazing, sir. And that course that I took of his solidified this idea of embracing my authentic voice. And it just stuck with me ever since. So just an example there. But, you know, where does that fall in? That to me would fall in, and I'll go into detail about these. That would fall into LMS, because this is more of a content development idea. I guess you could put it under multimedia production services. So anyway, let's go over these so you understand what it is. I identified 3 pillars, 3 areas, 3 industries, if you will. My parent folder is industry-specific resumes and cover letters. So you see where this is going. I'm going to make not generic resumes that I hand out to everybody and Bob's your uncle. This is more industry-specific resumes. So they are a little bit generic, but I'll show you where I'm going to customize it and make it more appealing in the cover letter so that it strengthens the genericness of the resume. Now, you can tailor your resume to every single job you're applying for, but that seems like a crazy bad use of your time, so I'm not going to do that. Now, LMS for me is Learning Management Systems. Why I fell on this one is learning management systems I've been exposed to, I've been a part of. I have tons of experience over the last probably 12 to 15 years working with learning management systems, Docebo, Cornerstone On Demand, Oracle, Taleo Learn, Moodle, several others, mainly those though, and being exposed to it from different departments and working with different bureaus and different government organizations and different corporate clients. So I have an exposure that ranges from system administration to technical support to IT to content development to virtual event management. So I've kind of dipped my toe in all of these different areas within the LMS industry. So it just made sense to have it on there because I'm kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to that. Clients can work with me for simple system administration. They can work with me for instructional design and the actual development of the courses, or they can work with me as a simple consultant. Consultancy is also a big part of it. I love working with SMEs and presenters especially to elevate their content to the next level. Because a lot of these folks, they're really good at their skill, their expertise, but they're not so good at delivering the content because that's a whole skill set in and of itself. Presenting is a thing. And I do a lot of coaching for presenters and SMEs because that's not their strength. They don't know how to set up their camera and their audio and to make sure their internet connection's solid and to have good room tone and minimize background noise and put themselves on D&D. They need somebody, a producer such as myself, of many other roles, to sort of handhold and provide that white glove service that I'm so famous for. Famous is a strong word. Known for, perhaps. I'd like to think that when people hear the name Matt Leger, that they think really supportive guy that knows his stuff. And that's the reputation I've established for myself in the LMS industry. LMS was my first category. And if you can only think of one category or two or five, it doesn't matter. Do whatever makes sense for you. Start with just one. For me, I've always been kind of divided equally between these three, so it made sense. And they all kind of work together. But it doesn't have to be this way. This is just me sharing my own view, but of course tailor this to your own needs and to your own whatever makes sense for you in your job search. Career search is a better way of saying that. I don't like the word job. The word job is like a bad legal word. It almost means like, hey, we're going to do a job, like, no, that's not what we're doing here. We're looking for a career, or we're looking for a contract, more specifically as freelancers. Now, this will work as well if you're looking for an employment. Now, MPS is Multimedia Production Services. Now, I put a little note to myself inside. So this would be more any jobs to do with content development, course authoring, instructional design, systems administration, consulting, as I said, project management. That's a big one that a lot of people don't think of in the LMS industry, but they have a tremendous need for good project managers. If you've got your PMP, you're almost a shoe-in for an LMS job, believe it or not, because they have such a need for it, and across like all kinds of different divisions and departments. So if I were to go back almost in my career, I'd probably first thing I would do is get my PMP, because that will inform all of the other things you're going to do, and you're going to have a very solid understanding of how to manage your projects moving forward. I had a grasp on project management just from an experiential sort of like in the thick of it, in the gauntlet, in the lion's den kind of thing. And I developed my strengths and aptitudes that way. But I would have much preferred learning it conventionally, more theoretically, and learning it that way than cutting my teeth on the job, right? It's always better to have formal training first before you jump into the lion's den. But it is what it is. You'll learn one way or another. It's just one's more painful than the other. So that's LMS, right? So that's the one I'm working on now, and you'll see that I've already developed my resume, which I'll show you here in a moment. And I've already got a cover letter template that I can tweak certain things. Claude has given me some excellent ideas on how I can do that in an authentic way. And then I'll have all my different cover letters here. It's going to be the same industry-specific resume that will be applicable for many different jobs that I'll be applying for. The next one I'm going to look at is multimedia production services. So what does this entail? Let's take a look at Claude, because he'll explain it better than I could. So the way that he's categorized it here, multimedia production services would be companies like Adobe Creative Cloud, right? DaVinci Resolve, Camtasia, Audacity, Articulate. And these are going to be ones that I specifically have worked with a ton. I'm not going to put in After Effects, for example, because even though I do have a decent amount of experience with it, I wouldn't say I have a competency. All these other products, fine, absolutely. And this would be roles such as content developer, again, which is also could be found in LMS, multimedia producer, video editor, audio engineer, all those things kind of fall into the same category. A lot of people ask me, like, what does that mean? A multimedia producer is, well, multimedia being media of different types, like videos, audio, graphics. So multiple different types of media is what that means. And then a producer is someone who is essentially a creator. You're the creator, you're the manager, you're the overseer. You take these media projects and these asset creations under your wing, and you make sure that they're done from beginning to end. And then typically there's a handoff once the asset's created to someone else down the proverbial conveyor belt. So like a system administrator may take your video and load it up on an LMS, or more likely you'll hand your multimedia assets over to an instructional designer or a content developer who will then use that in a course, and then they'll upload the course into the LMS. So if you can do all of these things, such as me, add twinkle in post, you're going to have a much bigger advantage over other folks in a very highly saturated market, I must say, with a lot of competition, if you want to look at it that way. For me, I don't feel that way because my skill set, I'm pretty confident in. That's what will set me apart. But if you've only got one or two strong parts of your resume, you're going to want to use these differentiators as much as possible. A lot to consider, but let's look at the next one here so we can kind of round this off. Virtual event management is kind of the third pillar that wraps this all together, and they're all directly related, as you can see. So virtual event management would be companies like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, On24, Zoom, of course. We could add maybe Riverside and other such platforms. Like, there's actually missing some stuff from my list here that I'll have to look back and see what happened. So now, how does this relate to my search here, my opportunity search, as it were? Basically, as I alluded to, I'm going to have a customized industry-specific resume for each one of these categories. There will be a specific template for each one of those industries as well. So it's not going to be just a generic cover letter template. It'll be industry-specific as well, just like the resume. That will arm me with what I need to then start rapid firing my resume and applications off to all these different companies. I'm probably going to go directly to their sites and take a look at what positions they have available and maybe just apply for those rather than just sending off like to some generic inbox. But yeah, it's going to take some research, and I'm realistic in the fact that, it might take me 20, 30 minutes per application. That's better than the hour and a half I was spending on each one before, which is crazy. Now, let me show you, if I go back to the LMS folder here, I wanted to show you the resume. And it's okay if you see my personal information. That does not bother me whatsoever. It's all publicly available anyways. So this one here I created with Claude. And again, I have to say this on every video that mentions AI now, because a lot of folks still don't understand. You have to scrutinize, and if you watch the channel, you're probably sick of me saying this, but it's true. You have to scrutinize the living daylights out of anything that is AI generated. And I mean anything and everything. Okay? Do not copy and paste from Claude or ChatGPT and pop it in a Word doc and call it good. You will be busted, and your resume, if it even makes it past the ATS system, is going to they're going to take one look at it and go, oh yeah, that was generated by AI, because they see these things all the time. Now, I could make a whole video about what to look for in terms of how obvious AI was used to make it, such as like M dashes is one really good key. If you see a lot of M dashes in a document, probably it was ChatGPT or some type of other large language model. But all that to say that when I'm developing these things in Claude, it's not like, hey, Claude, make me a cover letter, and then boom, I'm done. It's make me a cover letter, I look it over, I make some modifications, I send it back. It goes, oh, yeah, I see what you did there. I suggest in that same spirit, or however it says it, maybe change this, this, and this. And then I go, okay, that maybe, and then I'll debate with it a little bit and then go back and forth. For example, Addy and Sam, I'm not super familiar with Addy. Like, I know what it is and I know what the acronyms stand for. Have I used it actively in my roles? Not a whole lot, because I'm more of the intuitive type. I just do basically what feels right, and then I like to check and have several rounds of back and forth with clients to make sure I'm on the right track, and that has lent itself better for my workflow than using a specific rigid model. That said, though, I do like Agile. That's one that I'm quite fond of. Love the idea of developing in spurts, and when the energy's high and when the opportunity's there, and working with mastermind groups and things like that. I love those ideas. Do I actively use those things in every single project and every day? No, absolutely not. The reality of it is that development and design work, a lot of it is art. It's an intuitive process. It's not something that you can necessarily put your brain to and just figure it out, right? And get it done in a technical sense. That's what happens when you try to do that with AI. That comes across completely devoid of any human spirit. It's just like super technical and just like robotic, and that's not what we want. So we want our resume to reflect that. I talked about last time of standing out from the crowd, but also not putting a target on your back either, right? So it's somewhere in between. You want to stand out in areas not necessarily visually, because that might get you blocked by the ATS system. For example, I shared last time I had made a customized HTML resume trying to be creative, and sent that off to an employer and never heard back. And that was probably just because I had too much of a try-hard attitude. Something that shows that you care about what you're doing and that you've put some time and effort into it, but that you haven't tried so hard that you're like almost going too much to the other side. So it's a process, and I've probably went back and forth with Claude 10, 15 times with this one too, just with the resume alone. And then there's a cover letter. That's another few rounds, right? So let's just go through it so you can get an idea. Now, professional summary, this is important because this is like one of the first things they're going to look at. So this should really strike them with what I call differentiators. Like, how are you different than the other 100 people that have submitted resumes? For me, I like to put key metrics in there. I like to put stats that catch their attention. 20 years plus, SCORM API. There's things that pop out here. 50%, 4 to 5 times ROI. LMS, these things just pop right out on the page. If you were a recruiter, where would your eyes go? Use your sense of empathy. The name, then instantly down, I skip over all that stuff at the top, and then my eyes go down to summary. I want to get a basic idea of who this guy is before I even want to spend any more time looking at the resume. All right, I've got a basic idea there might be a fit. Let's keep reading. Competencies, okay, mentioned LMS, development. I see some familiar proper nouns here, such as captivate or maybe articulate. And then, does the experience reflect this? And certainly it does here. The same keywords popping up everywhere. I'll have to explain this on a resume because this is going to be confusing to someone. They're going to say, you've got 2 startups going, and this might be working against me too, I don't know. You got 2 startups going, and you just recently lost a job or parted ways with this company for whatever reason, and in truth it was a layoff. So that's going to have to be explained because they're not going to understand. And truthfully, there was a lot of overlap here, because technically I was what you might consider a dependent contractor. So I was technically working for myself as Maple Grove Productions, and eSkills was my client. So a lot of this stuff in these bullets overlaps. Like, it was very difficult at times to tell, am I acting on behalf of Maple Grove right now, or am I acting on behalf of eSkills? And essentially I was always acting under Maple Grove because I was a contractor and that was my business. eSkills was my primary and a lot of the times my sole client, because I was getting more hours and money than I knew what to do with at times. So they kept me very busy. But Rapid Course Company does a lot of the same things as Maple Grove and as I did with eSkills. So that's going to have to be clarified. I don't know if it's helping me or hurting me right now, but time will tell, I suppose. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but I want to go over the cover letter with you before we finish the video. Key achievements, kind of just rounding it out and bringing it back home. It's a little bit repetitive, but it's also summarizing again. You want to kind of summarize the beginning and at the end. And then education, this is relevant education only. I would have had other, like my voice acting certification. I would put that in maybe MPS jobs that I'm applying for. Here it doesn't really make as much sense unless they might appreciate that for content development. I don't know. I might actually add that back in because LMS work does involve content development, and content development can include voice work if they see, as I was mentioning earlier, that I'm a one-stop shop for all these different LMS services. Oh, you also do voice acting too? Fantastic. Now we don't have to outsource it, or we don't have to send the files over to another team. We can just have you do the content development and the voicing for it. And I've done that many, many times with eSkills. You want to demonstrate to that end your versatility and how you've got a skill set that allows for you to pivot from one project to the next, from one department to the next, from one need to the next, because they like that. Cross-training was a very big thing at eSkills, and I always took the opportunity to make sure that I was cross-trained in 2 or 3 different other areas in case the work ever started to slow down in my department. I could just go help somebody else out or pivot for a little while, then come back. And it did happen many times. Ultimately, there was not enough work in the company in general with just what's going on with the U.S. government and post-COVID sort of budget explosions kind of like winding down now. So unfortunately, my scenario there, and they also laid off people that were outside the U.S. first. So unfortunately, that's where my tale with eSkills ended. It was a very good experience, and I really further developed my skills when I was there. So I have no regrets with my time, and I look back at my time with eSkills with fondness, but it's time now to move on to the next level, and that's exactly what we're doing. And then portfolio. Do you have a portfolio? If you don't, you should probably make one. Oh yeah, languages too. If you speak any other languages, put that down. If you only speak English, put that you speak very fluently and you write fluently. Testimonials, never a bad thing. Do you have a website? If you don't have a website, definitely make one. It looks good here at the top. It looks good to just kind of contain your things. So easy to make now with AI. You can make a site in less than a day or two. And then testimonials never hurts. I don't put references available upon request from my research. That's not really done anymore, and it's kind of implied that if they want references, they're going to ask you. And then industry content. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about all this stuff, all LMS topics. So it made sense to add that there so they could see that I'm an authority in the industry on those topics. So that's the resume. Next, we'll take a quick look at the cover letter template that I made, or that Claude helped me make, I should say. And this is by no means finalized here. Originally, it had stuff at the top like my name and email address and all these things, and the whole to from lines at the top that took up half a page. I didn't see the point of having that there, and actually my research indicated that's not really done through electronic communication. So I removed that whole thing because I didn't want my cover letter to be more than 1 page rather. And it was like going off to 2, almost 3 pages, and I don't want that. This is actually almost too long for me. But I'm going to keep it because it has all the information that I need. Now, I've done this in such a way where I know what I need to replace. So anything in square brackets, I'm going to come in here, and there is some manual input, right? Like I said earlier, we're not just taking this stuff and firing it off and just pray and spray. But, it makes it very easy for me to come in now and find the square brackets, fill that in. Oh yeah, I wanted to, before we end, so I'm not going to go through all this cover letter, guys. Pause the video, read it if you want. But that's the general idea. Have something where you can just fill in the blanks kind of thing. But before we end, very important, I wanted to cover this with you because I love what Claude said here. So pro tips for customization. We'll finish up the video and I'll come back on the camera here to wrap things up. So this is gold. Check this out, guys. Pro tips for customization, and this can apply for your resume as well as your cover letter. Spend 5 to 10 minutes researching each company before applying. Look for recent blog posts, case studies, LinkedIn posts from employees, Glassdoor reviews. Drop one specific authentic detail in paragraph 2 to show you actually care about their company. So in paragraph 2, mention their product, mission, recent news, or something that resonated with you. You have to actually genuinely spend some time to research this. Mention something specific about the role. Drop one specific authentic detail in paragraph 2 to show you actually care about their company. I would go further and say in this second one that you care about the position and that you've looked up the opportunity and how it relates to the things that we're saying, like recent blog posts, case studies. What are they up to? What are they posting about on LinkedIn? Relate that somehow in your cover letter. That's going to make you stand out from the crowd, because you're going to see, oh, this is well written. And at first, maybe I thought it was AI, but it seems like this person actually took some time to research what we're up to and read our blog posts, and they've added it here. Now, that's assuming they get to the bottom of your cover letter. The second paragraph has that indicator that if they read past the first paragraph, they're going to see that you've already put some authentic words in there. And then he says, match 2 to 3 keywords from the job description in your final paragraph. I would say that there are tons of keywords in here. He's already put some in here for us. LMS administration, instructional design, client success, right? Those are words, big keywords in that industry that are searched for often. And I think why he's saying that is it's not necessarily someone human that's going to be scanning with their eyes. It's probably the ATS. The system, the HR system that they use will catch that word. Now, I don't know why he says to put it in the last paragraph. I don't know how that matters. But just the fact that those words are there will probably flag the ATS and get you noticed more than somebody that doesn't have those words in their cover letter or in their resume. That is basically all I wanted to talk about today. I hope that, first of all, adds some complimentary tones to the first video. Even the things that are good advice that I share may not necessarily work. And this is one of these opportunities where it didn't work. That's only one application. So you can't even say it didn't work. It's just it didn't work for this particular occasion. That's not to say that the strategy is not sound, or that it couldn't work with another company, or that it couldn't be successful even with that same company with just a couple of little tweaks. If I were to go back and do it again, and this is good information for you to know, if you haven't watched that first video, you really need to watch it and then watch this one again. But if I were to do it again, I would tailor the resume to that specific position. I think that's what hurt me the most, more than being overqualified for the position. I could have reined it back a little bit with my heavy experience and founder and all these things makes it seem like I'm this multimillionaire, which is not the case at all. But I would take a more frontline approach, if you will, and come at it with a little bit more humbleness, a little bit more sensitivity to the fact that if I come on too strong, as I did, they're not even going to give me time of day. That's what happened. But hey, good learning lesson, right? I won't make that mistake again. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I look forward to speaking with you and seeing your comments of what you thought of this video, what you're up to, how your job search is going, or your opportunity search, as it were. Let me know how it's going, and if you want to see more of these videos, if you want to see something more specific, do let me know. I'm always looking for constructive feedback to make the channel even better for everybody, for the community. And with that, I will wish you good luck and happy hunting, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. See ya.